Hello, Henry County Board of Education. My name is Jasmine Petrozello, and I'm going to be talking to you guys today about the benefits of adding LGBTQ literature to Henry County schools. Boy Meets Boy by David Leviathan is a great novel to not only have in high school libraries, but also as a required course text for grades 9 through 12. It's also a great example of what other novels should look like when we decide what type of novels we should add into our library and into our course syllabuses, simply because David Leviathan does a great job in giving readers a variety of complex characters for them to associate with. He also does a great job in just depicting what the true and raw members of the LGBTQ community look like. They're normal people, just like the rest of the high school heterosexual teens that we see every day. The only thing that makes these students different is their sexual orientation. And it's really important that we as teachers start teaching students that and start taking a step forward towards normalizing the LGBTQ community by including them into our discussion, just as we include all races and just as we should include all sexualities. It shouldn't matter. We shouldn't exclude somebody just because of their sexual orientation. And what is most important to keep in mind is the more uncomfortable subjects that are talked about, the more often that they're talked about, the less uncomfortable that they become. So how will more novels like Leviathan's help the LGBTQ community? Oftentimes, students feel more uncomfortable speaking to teachers about uncomfortable conversations rather than speaking to their parents about uncomfortable topics, simply because the stakes are just much higher. Getting kicked out of your home is an entirely different story than getting kicked out of your classroom. The fear just isn't there. Creating a safe space for students to venture off with their curiosity without being shamed, bullied, or attacked is very important for success in the education of the LGBTQ community. If we want students to ask us questions, and if we want students to, really understand what they're resonating with in characters, guide discussion, teach them, terminology, teach them their history, teach them how still today, how the LGBTQ community is fighting for their rights. I think that will really help in lifting the stigmas that the LGBTQ community has against them. Novels like Boy Meets Boy can be discussed in the safe space that teachers create without having fear of being belittled for questions that are being asked. Because we as teachers have control over the classroom. We have control over the discussion. And at the very beginning of the school year, if we set the tone that this is not a place where we are going to make fun of our peers, where we are going to make them feel less than or excluded simply for who they are, I truly believe that the rest of the school year will be smooth riding and smooth sailing as, when the bar's set high at the beginning, they have no choice but to keep up with it. It's important, the more that we talk about it, as I said, it normalizes the subject and normalizes the idea. It starts to build straight allies, and they truly do help the LGBTQ community grow. Having straight allies shows people that do not agree with the LGBTQ community, who do not stand by them. It really helps show them that there's nothing different about them. It helps show them that there's no reason to exclude them. There's no reason to reject them. It's kind of like leading by example. And in a time like high school, where that's pretty much what every high school teenager does, is just lead or follow. It's really important that we lead good examples. And so setting things up like gay-straight alliances are really important to help create that safe stigma, the idea that excluding them is not okay at a very young age. So great discussion points about this book for a teacher would be a couple questions like, why is it so important for Joni to learn how to draw boundaries? What would make a person stay with someone so toxic after so many warnings from friends? What is the significance in Tony's understanding of why his parents act the way they do? understanding other perspectives and patience is very important. And why is it bad to place your happiness in the hands of others rather than your own? These are all morals that all students, regardless of their sexual orientation, could answer. These are all questions and lessons that they could learn and absorb themselves, along with things that could help members of the LGBTQ community survive. Oftentimes, students are not being accepted by their families. And seeing things like Tony's storyline could really help a student feel strong and feel not alone and feel it also shows people who are going through, or students that are going through friend breakups, through Joni and Paul's storyline and Joni and Tony's storyline, how patience and prevailing through the storm usually pays off at the end, as we saw through Boy Meets Boy. But it's really important that we as the teachers guide the discussion and the conversation in a healthy manner. Being a teacher involves more than just teaching curriculum. Discussing uncomfortable conversations with people who may have different opinions than you is very normal in the adult world, in the professional workplace, in the college setting, and just in everyday setting. You can't control other people's opinions, and teaching students that at a younger age rather than an older age, I think would be very beneficial for every student. And what better place to practice it than in a safe place where a teacher can kindly correct you when you start to veer off, or if students start to slander with mean side remarks that, don't really contribute to any conversation or any critical thinking or any deep points that could be brought to the discussion table. So fear of the conversation going south is an irrational fear if you're educated, as you can always bring the conversation that begins to derail back on track. The reality is that new aspiring teachers are drilled on the importance of ensuring their classroom is inclusive to all races. But why isn't ensuring the LGBTQ community feels included just as important? I feel like teachers should try just as much to have their classroom LGBTQ inclusive throughout the year as they do race inclusive. The reality is the classrooms are getting just as race diverse as they are sexually diverse. We have lesbians in the classrooms, we have gay boys in the classrooms, we have transgenders in the classrooms. There's no reason to exclude them out of high school activities, or out of classroom activities, or even out of their education. Ignoring their education does the LGBTQ community more harm than it does help. According to the Trevor Project, which is a website that not only gave me these statistics, but also gives schools and teachers the resources it needs for programs that could help their classroom achieve education on the LGBTQ community more efficiently. So things like suicide rates, they're a thing. They definitely go higher just because of your sexual orientation. Students in high school are absolutely bullied more just because of their sexual orientation. And the more that we show students that there is nothing to fear of them, that there's nothing different than them, the more they will be able to mold into mainstream society far more easily, and the less taboo it will become for everybody. So open hearts, open minds. The Gay Straight Alliance is such a great idea for schools to incorporate. It really promotes activism, and groups like these, they do things like Pride Prom so that students can feel equally included. And Gay Straight Alliances in schools oftentimes reduce bullying, reduces dropout rates, and suicide rates. In a place where students are already bullied for ridiculous things, being a member of the LGBTQ community only makes the high school experience worse. It's a great thing to have a place where gay members or LGBTQ members and straight allies can come to for a safe place. So these are my works cited, and I hope that you guys truly consider allowing more LGBTQ friendly books that depict